Hello there. All eyes are now on Westminster Sleaze. Forget COP26 and the pandemic and how much those will squeeze out of your wallet though. As per usual, please like, subscribe and comment below. And when subscribing, please do press that little bell, but also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video. In 2 short days, our eyes have been diverted, or maybe misdirected, from COP26 and the pandemic towards Sleaze within the murky corridors of Westminster, where MPs, it seems, are more interested in the potential for personal income than morals or their manifesto commitments, all magnificently encapsulated by the Boris Johnson-Owen Paterson train wreck and the prospect of a convicted felon, albeit awaiting the outcome of any appeals process, serenely returning to the green benches of the House of Commons. This week has not been a good look for our elected officials. And now there's talk of the ethics watchdogs having another look at Boris's wallpaper gate, as well as his recent little holiday to Spain. And further, the Times is reporting that a quarter of those who supported Owen Paterson in his lobbying for cash row have second jobs themselves, despite the fact that being an MP is not meant to be a full-time job. Otherwise, MPs couldn't also have ministerial jobs or maybe turn up at hospitals to help during the pandemic, could they? With The Independent reporting, a group of 22 Conservative MPs who voted for the government's botched overhaul of Parliament's disciplinary process have been investigated by the conduct watchdog. All to add to the idea of sleazy Tories running a sleazy government in a generally sleazy parliament. There's even been murmurings of an early general election, and all while we should be concentrating on how much the pandemic recovery is going to cost us individually, and if mandating a medical procedure is at all ethical or another lockdown is desirable, as well as what impact will the decisions coming out of COP26 have on our way of life going forwards, not to mention the cost. But no, it's now all about sleaze in high places, wallpaper, holidays and felonious MPs. How quickly we are diverted. But boil it all down, and all it means is that we cannot trust those people we trusted when we, as a voting collective, put them there to do what they're doing. And actually, even that's not quite actually true either. It's a lot worse than that. I did a bit of looking back at the last general election, and do you know how many truly independent MPs were elected? Well, it's a big fat round number, 0. None were. Out of 650 MPs, all were elected on the back of a party ticket. Yes, the independents were on the ballot papers, but party hacks were elected by us. So in effect, all of our elected representatives were each pre-selected by a local party group of people you probably know nothing about. And candidates get chosen for reasons you probably didn't know about or understand. And the big point is that neither you nor your wishes factor into those decision-making processes. So is it any wonder we end up with so many dud politicians, and worse, dud ministers, and even dud prime ministers? So is it any wonder why we lurch from one political crisis to another? We have outsourced our individual politician selection process to a few political party activists across the length and breadth of the country. We have placed our faith in these faceless and, more crucially, unelected people to do the choosing for us. And we do so without demanding some sort of transparency over that process, nor how the candidate choice was arrived at. They are presented to the public as a fait accompli. And that actually makes an election an utterly pointless exercise in a heavily safe seat. How many people think about these things when they go to vote? And the only reason that we currently have 6 independent MPs is either because they've been thrown out of their original party for various reasons, some not for very nice reasons, but they're still there, aren't they? Or they've gone independent through choice. So I have a proposal to crack down on some of this, and that is to punish the political party concerned as equally liable for the failing of their chosen candidate. If a party-backed MP gets up to no good and gets time, for example, then the party concerned should not be able to stand or back a candidate in that constituency at the next election. And further, the next elected MP there should be forbidden from crossing the floor to that party, so putting a kibosh on big party interference. Or another simpler way is to heavily fine the constituency party concerned, with reduced punishments for those parties that whistleblow on their own MPs. The bottom line being that if we, the electorate, are effectively forced by the two-party state to trust our local party systems to produce good people, then those parties need to be directly accountable for those choices. And don't you think that would vastly increase the possibility that parties would look more deeply into the business and financial dealings of potential candidates, as well as their histories, and demand they give up such information prior to selection, as well as ongoing checks to ensure probity? Because a failure of an MP is as much a failure of the party that selected them and supports them throughout their term in office. And I don't care if potential and serving MPs have to have their coals continually raked over. Let's get raking and get good people into Parliament, because we will then be looking more at news about substantive issues that directly affect us all, rather than at a never-ending list of sleaze allegations. Now, many will say that MPs are paid by the taxpayer and are only answerable to their electors, so parties cannot be liable. But is that true? Don't the whips really control those MPs? And how do you think those whips control some of those people? By knowing stuff about them, possibly? So who are these MPs really working for? So shouldn't those that use their party structure to control these people also be held accountable? Isn't there a form of vicarious liability in there somewhere? After all, companies can be held liable for the failings of the employees they control, can't they? So why not political parties? And how about the independent MPs, you ask? Well, it's not as if we're inundated with them, is it? And as an example, I found a Wikipedia page that lists MPs suspended from the House for unruly behaviour since July 1931 up until July 2021. Now, I don't know how complete the list is, but as far as I can see, none of them were elected as independent MPs. And the same goes for a House of Commons library list of sitting MPs that have been imprisoned since 1945. Although the vast majority of those were MPs from unionist parties in Northern Ireland for convictions relating to protests, etc. So it doesn't look to me like MPs initially elected on an independent ticket are the problem here, only those elected under a party banner. So let's hold the party that helps offending MPs get elected accountable too. Might buck up journalists as well. But the trouble, though, is that the two big political parties would never let the MPs they control vote for such a rule, even if the vast majority of voters wanted it. So what's your opinion on party politics and sleaze? Please like and comment below.